trillion in debt. And yet over the weekend, the Senate went into overtime throughout the Super Bowl and beyond into the early morning. Over 2 million gotaways are in America today. A gotaway is a person from a country we do not know where they're from. Is it in America today? We have a two-tier justice system, and the Justice Department, the DOJ, targets their political enemies, and President Trump is the very top of that.
Somehow, though, that little boy wasn't even the #1 most childish person in Congress today. That honor went to the Klan mom, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
World, so it's a natural point of curiosity, but I understand that we've reached the end of the questions that you want to answer. Thank you for talking to us about Julian Assange and for joining the program.
Thank you. Good night.
Was that a MAGA hat that made Marjorie Taylor Greene's face flush? Regarding the terrible speech from the crazy woman who drank too much of Trump's Kook-Aid, Jimmy Kimmel's has just the jokes that put that MAGA maniac in her place. The late-night comic Jimmy Kimmel, who we all love, couldn't help but take aim at this political softball. Marjorie Taylor Greene makes his job too easy, as making jokes at her expense is just too easy with her radical takes and very bold, idiotic statements that are never rooted in facts. A well-deserved roast is coming that is sure to make Marjorie and the rest of the MAGA lunatics lose their mind. If you can't stand to witness another 4 years of hell from a second Donald Trump presidency, and the thought of Trump in the White House makes you want to hurl, don't forget to spread the message. The best way to get these videos out to the people that need to see them, looking at you independents and common sense Republicans, is by growing our audience as large as possible. We only have until November 5th, so do your part and click that button so you never miss a crazy story about our numbskulls with the elephant as a mascot. All it takes is a few swing states to win this election, so don't give up hope just yet. Don't forget to watch until the end so we can maximize our reach and save democracy this election season. Let's put Trump where he belongs, locked up in prison for all the lies he's told and the people he's ripped off over the years. Thanks for doing your part. Now back to covering the train wreck that is Marjorie Taylor Greene. As I was saying, what a disaster. Our beloved conspiracy queen, Marjorie Taylor Greene, made an effort to remain composed. She tried to remain well-informed and educated, but as always, her true colors eventually appeared, and she revealed herself as one of the biggest nutcases in all of Congress. For a while she held it together. Everything was going swimmingly until interviewer Sarah Ferguson brought up the 2020 election. Sore spot for Greene and all of MAGA. This was the beginning of Marjorie's breakdown. Witnessing a toddler's disappointment at running out of ice cream was akin to that. Ferguson asked Greene whether Trump will face charges related to his behavior on January 6th. Then, my friends, fireworks started. Greene became as red as a Donald Trump tie. Her ears were practically steaming. Just hang in there. Things will improve, she was criticized. You've never accepted the 2020 presidential election results. Indeed, you've lionized people for the attack. Marjorie's eyes became enlarged with anger and rage. The burning question: what will the mega supporters of Donald Trump do in the event that he is unsuccessful in the election? She cut Ferguson off in a competitive manner.
What will Donald Trump's MAGA supporters do if he loses the election?
Are we talking about Julian Assange?
Well,
a chihuahua on helium could barely get her voice heard. The most appealing aspect: Ferguson kept her cool the whole time. With composure, she inquired. As expected, Greene's anger level rose with every tough question asked. Greene's comedic body language was a standalone performance. She wriggled more than a child who needs to go potty but refuses to skip recess. It was almost as if she were attempting to land a spot on America's Got Talent delusional edition as she held the microphone. When Greene lost it and started to doubt Ferguson's journalism, that was the icing on the cake. Do you consider yourself an interviewer at all? Sarah, are you even competent to conduct an interview?
Show. I don't usually do interviews like this because people like you can't be taken seriously. Sarah, are you even a serious interviewer? I thought we're talking about Julian Assange here today.
This is the epitome of hypocrisy. Someone whose only skill is correctly spelling QAnon should be ashamed of themselves for saying that. Greene said, Sarah, what the Australian people know that probably don't like your show very much, but they do understand the truth, as if things couldn't continue to improve. In terms of the truth and Australian television viewership, Greene is unrivaled. Final act, following Ferguson's probably gritted thanks for her time, Greene ripped off her microphone like a band-aid. When the temperature in the kitchen becomes too much for you, you should probably get out. Unfortunately for Greene, I don't think she has the brains to do that. Of course, Jimmy Kimmel did a fantastic job of describing Greene's breakdown throughout the interview. He got off to a strong start with a plethora of jokes that could make the most serious politician laugh. To begin, Kimmel stated that Greene had a rough day. Poor Marjorie, he commented. She looked about as stable as a Jenga tower in an earthquake. Next, he demonstrated how our adored queen of conspiracies became irate when confronted with straightforward inquiries. It is entertaining, but pointless to watch a child explain quantum physics. When it came to Greene's breakdown, the late-night hero had a field day. He pointed out, I haven't seen someone turn that red since Trump tried to read a book without pictures. As Greene defended her most recent ludicrous assertion, the crowd couldn't help but laugh harder. Then Kimmel zeroed in on Greene's refusal to address Ferguson's valid points. He pointed out she was dodging those questions like Trump dodges taxes. On the day of the free hat, the audience went wild like a MAGA rally. The comedic treasure trove, however, persisted. When Greene criticized Ferguson, Kimmel couldn't help but make fun of her. You're not a serious interviewer, he asked with a grin. Coming from someone who believes in Jewish space lasers, that is quite interesting. The crowd roared with laughter. The climax of Kimmel's roast came when he addressed Greene's last tantrum. He pointed out she grabbed that mic like it was the last conspiracy theory at the QAnon buffet. The audience erupted in laughter.
World, so it's a natural point of curiosity, but I understand that we've reached the end of the questions that you want to answer. Thank you for talking to us about Julian Assange and for joining the program.
Thank you. Good night.
Surely recalling Greene's previous jaw-dropping escapades. Notably, Kimmel's reaction to Greene's effort to represent Australians was the most shocking part. Kimmel made the observation, Marjorie Taylor Greene knows as much about Australian TV ratings as she does about actual science. Absolutely nothing. His political comedy was well received by the crowd. Throughout the interview, Kimmel brought up Greene's evident restlessness. According to Kimmel, she was fidgeting more than Trump at a spelling bee. All of the jokes made the audience chuck one last pearl. Kimmel concluded his analysis of Greene's interview. You know, pointed out, I'm starting to think Marjorie Taylor Greene might not be the stable genius she claims to be. Surely recalling all the time she had demonstrated it herself, the audience couldn't help but chuckle. Alright, now that we've witnessed Greene's breakdown, let's move on to her most significant errors in this disastrous interview. This idiocy is hilarious and was a big hit with Jimmy Kimmel. This is Greene's masterwork. Are you even an interviewer who takes their job seriously? You can't be taken seriously. So I normally avoid doing interviews like this. Kimmel was unable to say no. Are you even serious about being a politician? He asked Marjorie. Just like the rest of us, you're not someone we can take seriously. Hold on a second. The realities of January 6th were nuanced by Greene. Many of the rioters who were arrested, she added, walked into the Capitol building through open doors and videoed and took pictures of the inside of the Capitol. The reaction from Kimmel? Yeah. And I have no doubt that they were merely enjoying a pleasant guided tour. Perhaps in their minds it was the most irate school field trip ever. After that, Kimmel showed off a toy camera meant for kids, exclaiming, "Look, I found one of the cameras those peaceful tourists used." He raised it to his face as he acted out taking shots with over-the-top oohs and ahs like a visitor in awe. The onlookers chuckled, and Greene dug further. She pointed out, "Sarah, the Australian people know that, and they probably don't like your show very much, but they do understand the truth." Not even Kimmel could turn a blind eye to this little gem.
Sarah, what the Australian people know that probably don't like your show very much, but they do understand the truth.
Let me just put this to you, because you use the term truth as the reason why you have been so supportive of Julian Assange. So you've lionized people imprisoned for their role in attacking the Capitol on January the 6th, including visiting them in prison. Most dominant issues of truth in the American landscape. So, as I just said, you've lionized.
Coming from an Australian here, this is the dominant issue of truth. Okay, let's hear it, Sarah.
He responded, "Ah, yes. this, because nothing says, I understand the truth, like supporting a guy who thinks windmills cause cancer. The cartoonist consequently whirled a globe wildly. He glanced at the spinning globe and said, I'm trying to find the country where Marjorie Taylor Greene is considered an expert on, well, anything. Kimmel's joy intensified as Greene's annoyance mounted. In jest, she grabbed that mic like it was the last piece of evidence proving the election wasn't stolen. Kimmel demonstrated by grappling with a stuffed animal microphone that was resting on his desk. He responded with, is this how you conduct interviews in Congress, Marjorie? Reflecting the ferocity of her passion. When Greene said the interviewer was being facetious, that was the killer move. Kimmel was unable to say no. Is there anyone else who isn't being serious? When asked about Greene's infamous conspiracy idea, he made reference to someone who believes in Jewish space lasers. To underscore, Kimmel brandished a fake laser gun bearing the Star of David logo. Australia, beware, he warned. Marjorie is starting to suspect you, while simultaneously yelling pew pew into the camera. When the interview fell apart, Greene lost his temper more quickly than the facts at a Trump rally. Kimmel pointed out, she was so red-faced and angry, I thought she was auditioning for the role of a tomato in a vegetable rights protest. What does our favorite orange turd have to do with MTG's meltdown? Asks the question. Kimmel will explain everything, my darling. No amount of Greene's anger would be wasted on our late-night hero. He saw a chance to roast two people he enjoyed. The political clowns arrived early for Jimmy, two for the price of one. Kimmel started off by making disturbing comparisons between Trump's tirades and Greene's breakdown. According to him, it's like watching a mini Trump in action. Same red face, same incoherent rambling, just with slightly better hair. However, the comedy treasure trove persisted. As Kimmel pointed out, Greene's love for Trump was more fervent than that of a fanatic cheering on their favorite boy band.
I think it's a real shame here in America today that we're seeing our justice systems used in campaigns and to sway presidential elections. And that's something that I would think people like yourself would condemn and speak out against.
He went on to say, she's like a Trump groupie. I half expected her to pull out a Trump 2024 poster and start screaming like a Beatles fan in the 60s. All eyes were on Kimmel when he compared Greene's meltdown to Trump's explosive Twitter attacks. It's like she's been taking how to throw a tantrum lessons from the master himself, according to him. Next thing you know, she'll be rage tweeting at 3 a.m. about Kav Fefe and hamburgers. What about the response of Trumpy the Grump? The customary tantrum from Donnie Deepers ensued. According to Kimmel, Trump praised Greene's performance as enthusiastically as a proud father. Check it out! Kimmel shouted. It's like watching a toddler congratulate another toddler for having the biggest meltdown in the grocery store. Parody of Trump's interviewing abilities was inevitable in the cartoon. Trump praising Greene's interview skills is like a fish complimenting someone's ability to climb trees, according to him. Neither of them should be giving advice on how to handle tough questions. Kimmel continued to make funnier jokes about Trump and Greene. They're like a match made in illusion, he said while laughing. Batman and Robin, if Batman was orange and Robin believed in Jewish space lasers, they seem to be competing to see who can say the silliest thing, according to Kimmel. And believe me when I say this is a really close contest. People in the crowd let out a scream. The real kicker was when Kimmel said that Trump and Greene appear to have an unusual relationship with reality. These two are so detached from the truth, they could be on a spaceship to Mars and still claim they're in Florida, according to him. Maybe that's why they get along so well. Misery loves company, and so does crazy. Here we go. Kimmel turns up the fire on Greene. Our beloved late-night host cooked her in a pot of her ridiculous remarks. Joke about Greene's irritation was Kimmel's first line of commentary. It was her wrath. She's just a snowflake, he said, making fun of her impatience. The crowd chuckled at the hypocrisy of a politician known for his harsh words, giving in to pressure. Just warming up, Kimmel. The jokes he told Greene were getting funnier by the minute. I haven't seen someone that red since Trump tried to read a book without pictures, he remarked, making a reference to Greene's wrath and Trump's reading fear. Throughout the segment, the comic kept bringing up how agitated Greene was. His face turned redder and redder as he imitated her angry expression, drawing laughter from the audience with each mention of her name. Kimmel was diligent in following Greene's schemes. She seized that microphone as if it were the final proof that the election had not been stolen, he boasted, making fun of her belligerent attitude and false claims about the 2020 election. The clincher came when Kimmel answered Greene's concerns about the interviewer's dependability. Do you consider yourself an interviewer at all? That's quite surprising surprising coming from someone who believes in Jewish space lasers," he responded, alluding to Greene's infamous conspiracy theory. As Kimmel continued his critique, the crowd chuckled. He explained things by pointing to things. One of the cameras those peaceful tourists used during the Capitol brawl was a child's toy camera, which he used to parody Greene's downplaying of the events of January 6th. In the finale, Kimmel really let go. He likened Greene's tantrum to that of a toddler who just found out there's no more ice cream, and her voice to that of a chihuahua on helium. The crowd let out a gasp. Lastly, Kimmel performed his worst roast. "You know," he said cheerfully, "I'm starting to think Marjorie Taylor Greene might not be the stable genius she claims to be." Thanks to Kimmel's forthright political humor, the audience laughed and cheered. Angry Greene, conspiracy theories, and Trump support were constant topics of Kimmel's piece. Like a comedy trio, each element amplified the humor of the others. It would seem that Kimmel's roast of Greene was exactly what the doctor prescribed. The restorative power of laughter was a complete surprise to me. Beyond the comedic, our beloved late-night comic offered some serious analysis of this political circus. There was more to Kimmel's quips than just making us laugh. Most significantly, they made people laugh at the ridiculousness while also discussing and thinking. While imitating Greene's fall, he questioned, "Hey America, is this really what we're dealing with?" Satire in politics isn't only funny. It deciphers the insanity, finds comedy in the political horror show of today. The greatest way to deal with crazy situations is to laugh at them, as Kimmel's roast demonstrated. Jimmy Kimmel said, "Remember folks, in the game of politics, it's better to be the comedian than the punchline." The assertion that gun control advocates staged false flag operations in Parkland, Sandy Hook, and Las Vegas was also made by Greene, who was mistaken. Families and survivors of the victims are impacted by these falsehoods. Transparency in the media and government is undermined by Greene's dissemination of false information. As for COVID-19, she has brushed it off, lied about vaccines, and drawn parallels between mask laws and the Holocaust. Because of her careless statements, vaccine hesitancy and public health risks have increased, extending the epidemic. A staggering number of lies were told by President Trump. The Washington Post fact-checker found that President Trump made more than 30,000 statements that were either incorrect or misleading. Regarding COVID-19, Trump told one of his worst lies, his advocacy of experimental treatments like hydroxychloroquine, and claims that the virus will disappear like a miracle, brought him widespread attention. The high mortality toll in the U.S. was likely caused in part by the delay in public health interventions caused by misinformation. Perhaps the most consequential are Trump's lies about the 2020 election. There was abundant proof that Trump's assertion that the election was stolen false. The American Revolution was ignited by this huge lie. Washington, D.C., January 6, 2021. He has damaged faith in democracy by refusing to acknowledge election results and by advocating for fake voter fraud. There are tangible consequences of MTG and Trump's deceit. Democracy is undermined, violence is incited, and public health is damaged as a result.
Overturned that election. Do you believe that he will ever face trial for those actions? You know, were it not for the ability of Mr. Trump's lawyers to delay proceedings, he might have a string of convictions before the election related to January 6 and his attempts.
By backing Greene and Trump, you're essentially saying yes to their deceit and destruction. Democracy thrives when people are informed and leaders are held to account. Democracies suffer when leaders deceive without facing consequences. Honesty, ethics, and public accountability are hallmarks of effective leadership. Regardless of the consequences, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Donald Trump have lied many times for political gain. Distrust, discord, and damage have resulted from these actions. In order to protect American democracy, we must reject leaders who disseminate falsehoods. It is both a political and moral need to vote for transparency and responsibility. By standing up to MTG and Trump, we can bring people together, fix our broken institutions, and build a fair and honest society. Interested in joining the fight to keep democracy alive and keep fascism out of the White House? You are someone who is tired of the lies and flat-out disgusting behavior of certain politicians. Join our mission by sharing this video and channel with everyone who needs to see the truth. Subscribe, hit that like button, and send this video to everyone who believes that nobody is above the law. The truth will always prevail. Stay calm, subscribe, and vote